Hello and welcome to the 99th episode of Fellowship in Essential Oils. For those of you that have followed us through this journey, we hope that you've enjoyed learning about all these amazing essential oils. And today we're actually talking about one that I have a bit of a close relationship with. And when we were kind of making sure we'd done all the important essential oils, we realized we'd actually missed it. Today we're exploring wintergreen. How are you today, Liz?
I'm really looking forward to this, but I am kind of a bit too chilled because I've been inhaling too much wintergreen. So don't expect a huge amount of information on me. But I'm interested to know, why do you have a relationship with wintergreen essential oil?
So obviously, I work with doTERRA essential oils, and one of the advantages I've had with being involved with them for over a decade now is several years ago. I don't know if you remember, but there was this massive earthquake that kind of struck Nepal, and a lot of the rural areas were actually really destroyed, and a lot of homes were destroyed. And as part of doTERRA's Healing Hands, which is their charitable arm, we were actually flown there to actually help to do some work, and we were helping to rebuild a hospital. And Vanessa Jean, who I wrote Gifts of Essential Oils with, she'd actually been over there previously to help rebuild a school that had collapsed and different things like that as well. The reason we do that is because in that area, we actually also source our wintergreen essential oil. So, as well as doing some hard labor and helping to rebuild a hospital, we were actually able to see how it's actually sourced. So wintergreen is wild harvested in Nepal. So basically the women will go up into the forest, up into the mountains, and they carry the wintergreen in these bags. And it's really interesting. They're these big hessian bags, and they put the strap around their head and then throw it behind them. Now, we saw the women kind of emerge out of the forest as they'd finished their harvest. They do it early in the morning. The kids go to school, they do it in the morning, then they can be home in the afternoon for the children. And they dump these bags and so on. We were actually given the opportunity then to pick that up and to see how heavy it actually was. Now, I squat down, I put it over my head, I go to stand up, and I can't. It was that frigging heavy but the neck muscles that these women must have, and some of them would have a child strapped to their front and the wintergreen on their back. So hard working, which really makes you appreciate these little brown bottles that we have. And then we saw the leaves were taken, they were weighed, the women were paid on the spot, and then they took them straight to the still and jam packed them and started sending that steam through there. And we saw the beautiful oil, and of course the Nepalese wintergreen. The oil actually comes out a soft pink color, which is really, really interesting to see as well. So being able to see the whole process, see the leaves and all that, really helps you to really appreciate the journey that people make all around the world to make sure we have these amazing gifts that we've talked about in the last 99 episodes.
Well, I'm really quite blown away by that story because I didn't know that story. And what I've got in front of me here are some notes that I wrote for Vine Vida when I've done their product. And I actually put, well, I can't find the exact words now. One second. Smelling wintergreen makes me feel like I'm sitting on the edge of a Nepalese mountain surrounded by prayer flags. And I didn't even know where it was sourced from. That's so strange. I'm really quite
Yeah.
blown away by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea that's where it came from.
Yep. I have two different varieties. I do have the Nepalese, and then in the past we previously sourced it. It does come from China, but that's a different species as well. So this one is more, I think the oil. I look at the color is a bit no, just a bit more. Still, the aroma is very, very similar, but it's blue, whereas you will find a soft pink color in the Nepalese one, which is really beautiful and I think adds to its magic. We'll talk about as we go on as well.
Do we know why they're different colours?
Different species. So there must be
Different species, but
must
yeah,
be
but so specifically what it is about the species that changes the colour.
no, to that I do not know. So the chemistry would still be high in that methyl salicylate, which I know we're going to talk a bit about today, but I'm not too sure, to be honest.
No, so that makes me think, I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I kind of remember Dr. Robert Papas talking about there being a blue frankincense oil, if I remember rightly, and that was because it had been distilled in a copper alembic.
Yes,
So
I
I
actually
wonder,
have a little bottle of that myself. Yeah.
So I wonder if it is maybe the distillation that's maybe different rather than chemistry, or I don't know.
Possibly, although the steel they were using was just the average kind of metal steel. It wasn't copper or anything like that. So, yeah,
I'm
well,
talking about I'm talking about the Chinese one
white
because
same color.
that's a blue oil. You said,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, I don't know.
Leave it with me.
Anyway. So, what do you know about the medicinal properties then of not methyl salicylate of wintergreen? Anything?
Well, because wintergreen is primarily methyl salicylate, I do kind of feel, there are many essential oils that have a complex chemistry. Things like, frankincense is a classic example of that. And I kind of do feel that wintergreen is a bit of a one-trick pony. It's kind of an aches and pains oil, and that would pretty much be the main reason I would reach for it on a physical level.
Yeah. So, well, I don't know if this is like a worldwide like expression, but my dad always used to say like jack of all trades, master of none.
Hmm.
And so, like, there's lots of oils that are jack of all trades, right? That you just bring them out for anything. But master of none is quite a scathing thing, isn't it? It's like, so in which case, there are others that are masters.
Yeah.
And wintergreen, I would say, is a master. Um, Interestingly, when I qualified back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, what, 1993, if you looked it up in Tisserand's safety book, it would say this is a hazardous oil. We were told this is not an oil that you use. And it will become clear why that has changed over time. Um, it is quite a dangerous oil from the point of view that it has a lot of contraindications and it can interact with an awful lot of different things within the body. And because it's so high in methyl salicylate, which is, I'm looking at this chemistry here, the one in front of me, 98.74%. So it's pretty neat, really. Um, if that goes somewhere it shouldn't go, then you've got problems, right? But also because it's such a master and has been known to be a master for a very, very long time, it's in a lot of things that you use on a daily life, particularly if you're elderly, because it is very good for aches and pains. It's in a lot of liniments. So, for example, tiger balm, which really makes sense to me now when you've said, right, oh, China, Nepal, that's where they come from, right? And so it's a strange situation because the energetics of it are is it can create a cooling sensation in some people, which is not surprising because it kind of does have a bit of a minty smell to it, although it doesn't smell like mint, but you can kind of get that mintiness. In some people it's cooling, in some people it's warming. And so that sort of clarification of changing the signaling through the circulatory system is really useful and very easily like made in a cream or lotion. Also, in fact, when I smell it, I very clearly smell euthymal paste, toothpaste. That it was like a natural based toothpaste that my mom was so into in the 70s. It was like so much, very healthy, natural thing. And that's exactly what it smells like. It's in euthymal toothpaste and it's there. So potentially you might be using it in two different things in your daily life already. Now the liniment might not, sorry, the toothpaste might not be that much of a problem because you're not really going to ingest it, right? You're just going to clean your teeth, spit it out, and you do have this like really cold feeling in your mouth afterwards like you do with mint toothpaste. But if you're having a liniment and you're already putting that on your body, and we'll talk about more of the actions in a minute, but if you're already putting that on your body and then you also use wintergreen essential oil, it's very, very easy to overdose, right?
Mm.
To complicate and confuse the system of how much it should have. And that's made even more complicated by the fact that wintergreen is like an English term, but actually it's an important medicine in some of like the plains medicines. If I remember rightly, I'll look at my notes when I look down, but if I remember rightly, the Lakota people, for example, use it. And they don't call it wintergreen, they call it tea berry or checkerberry. So even if it's like sort of annotated on something, you might not even know that it's there. And so this build up of things in the system then becomes problematic. So why does it become problematic? Well, the first is that methyl salicylate is a precursor to salicylic acid, which is aspirin. So aspirin thins the blood. So, for example, I know a lot of people that will take half an aspirin every day for its blood thinning properties to avoid strokes, for example. So if you're also using your half an aspirin and then you start using wintergreen on top of that, how problematic is that? And I'm not sure that we actually know the answer to that. And so there's so many like, but what ifs? Methyl salicylate is, if we look at it from a chemical point of view, we often talk about ketones on this program and what they do, but we very rarely talk about esters. But one of the pharmaceutical properties of an ester is it actually affects how fast something will absorb through the skin. So this is also another reason why Tiger Balm works so quickly, because it can get in really fast because the esters will do that job. But if you affect something, the speed of how something goes through the skin, then also what becomes an anomaly is how is that going to interact with drugs that are already circulating in the system? Now, we've already talked about how we might have liniments for aches and pains, but there's a specific interaction on the nervous system, which again, I'll come back to in a minute. We'll talk about its actions on the nervous system in a minute. But what this means is it can really help with muscular pain and relationship between nervous system and muscular pain, because it interacts with the sodium ion gated channels, which cause action potentials through the nervous system. So we often talk about these days, we never did to begin with, but we often talk about the chemical nervous system like neurotransmitters, and we will in a moment. But there's also the older model of a nervous system that we knew about before, was that it electrically signals, right? It sends electrical signals between the nerves. And that relies on the sodium ion channels and calcium ion channels, but sodium ion channels actually being able to signal correctly. So what happens is sodium goes into the cell, and that depolarizes it, and it changes the charge of the cell, and it sends an electrical charge quickly to the nerve, or from the nerve to the muscle. So these sodium ion channels obviously have their own sort of receptors, and the one that we're most interested in here is NaV1.2. That is on pretty much all of the cells in the nervous system, all of the cells in the musculatory system, on lymphatic system, on blood cells. So those, if you can imagine that the methyl salicylate actually communicates with pretty much every bodily system really quickly, and it does work fast. So one of the areas that I most like to use it is if I've got a really, really strong sinus congestion. And you know the
Mm.
ones that you're like, I cannot think straight. My head hurts so much. It's so congested and there's nothing going through. And so I do everything that you're not supposed to do. I use one drop undiluted, which you're really not supposed to do, but a single drop on just on, if you feel and you go, where's the hurty bit? Where's the hurty bit? Just like 2 or 3 seconds, it goes right through it and it smashes it to pieces, but you feel it go right through your system. So that kind of, we don't really talk about it very often, but when we're ill, obviously, our nervous system also goes, I just don't want to, I just don't want to, because your body wants you to go to bed, right? That's the whole
Mm.
thing. It's saying, I want you to stop working. I want you to stop doing all of those things that are going to stop me dealing with that germ. So your nervous system tells you to do that. But you do that and your nervous system gets a jolt, a massive, massive jolt. Now, because that happens, then we have to be really careful with people who might not react very well to that jolt. And specifically, we're talking about people who have epilepsy. So once they have, it has interacted with these sodium ion channels, it then interacts with a neurotransmitter, GABA, and specifically on GABA A receptors. And again, all through the system, all through the body, these are the body's calming receptors. So on paper, you would think epilepsy would react well to this calming of the this activation of the GABA A receptors. But because there's so much conflicting evidence, we just don't know.
Mm.
So it is fantastic at aches and pains. It is absolutely incredible at circulatory problems. So if somebody has Raynaud's disease, for example, and they have this coldness, they really react to cold, winterberry makes perfect sense when you think about it. Wintergreen really is helpful for that. And if you have like congestion in your belly, so you've got really bad indigestion, again, we just use the smallest amounts. So maximum dilution is actually not that low. So Tisserand and Young say 2.4. So I would go 2% just to be on the safe side. So you're going a tablespoon of carrier oil, 2 drops of that will keep you at 2%. And you just like massaging it on your belly. Or things like thrombosis really work, are really active, like react well to wintergreen. And what's interesting about the interaction there is what you would say is wintergreen essential oil is really good for massage, but massage over thrombosis would be contraindicated. That's one of the areas that we don't massage because the veins are too close to the surface. So just having a massage oil and just gently rubbing it on, and take your hands off, leave the oil to do the work. So there are so many ways to use this oil. I would say that it's more an old person's oil than a young person's oil. If you're young and healthy and virile, really, you probably don't ever need to use it except for, oh my God, I've got a cold, and you would be really careful. You really shouldn't do neat on the top of your head, but I do. But if you just did the same as you did the teaspoon or even tablespoon of oil. Oh yeah, I should have said teaspoon earlier, not tablespoon. Teaspoon of oil with 2 drops in would be 2%. And then just rub that on the head. You can do what the body doesn't want you to do. You can go to work and do those things, but then please go to bed because that's what the body wants you to do. But it gets you over the river at the time of crisis, if you like.
Very much so. So yeah, I remember actually a couple of years ago you did teach me the wintergreen on the top of the head. So I know I have that in my usage notes for sure. So just to come back to it, it can be a contraindication on certain medications. Now, obviously, you and I are not doctors, so we don't know exactly how every pharmaceutical works. But one challenge I find sometimes when we talk to doctors is when they don't know anything about essential oils, they just go, best you don't use it. When it's and because they just like better safe than sorry kind of approach. But are you saying that where wintergreen is kind of majorly contraindicated is epilepsy, but also if you're on anything to do with blood thinning or of the blood, kind of that's where you'd steer away from wintergreen, yeah?
Well, yes. And now I'm just seeing. Okay, so um, as I say, this is off the thing that I did for a company. So it says since this absorption then affects how things circulate in the body, it changes the way drugs engage in the liver, kidney, and the heart. As such, then, for any kind of liver, kidney, or heart conditions, we're going to leave wintergreen essential oil alone. So
Yep.
actually, no, it's a lot more complex than that, isn't it?
Mm.
So it's a strange one, isn't it? Because, like I say, it's an old person's oil. It's not really a young person's oil. And the old people are the ones that are on the medications. They're the ones that have got the blood pressure medications. They're the ones on the statins. So we really approach it with real care. And remember, of course, that essential oil usage is cumulative, right? So you might do this thing on the top of your head and then you won't use it again. Well, we're not really interested in how that's going to interact with the liver, if I'm honest, and probably get thrown out of every organization for saying that publicly, but I wouldn't be. But if somebody came to me who got really bad aches and pains, and I was like, I wanted them, maybe arthritis, for example, and I wanted them to use a cream 3 times a day, every day for 6 weeks, then yeah, I'm really going to be looking very, very closely at the drugs that they're on to say, is it good? Is it not good?
So you're saying it's an old person's essential oil, but young, fit adults that are maybe quite active, exercising, going to the gym, different things like that, they've got aches and pains. If you're making up a blend or if you're using a couple of essential oils to kind of relieve those tight muscles, whether it be injured muscles from exercising or just tight muscles from being at a desk, is wintergreen a goer or are there other alternatives you'd reach for first?
Yeah, I think it's a good one, especially with something like black pepper. Can you imagine the effects of that on your circulation? It would be fantastic. However, personally, I'd be wanting to know how it felt on their skin. I wouldn't be. This is one of your questions that I should have primed me for because I would want to think it out before I just did this. But if you put a pot of cream on a shelf and sold it for that, I don't think you would be able to predict how it would feel on their skin because it
Mm,
can be warm and it could be cooling.
yeah.
And if you put black pepper with it too, black pepper is really interesting because it's warming and stimulating, but it's not an irritant. But if you put it with cinnamon bark, for example, don't know. I don't
Mm.
know, but I would say, yeah, I would say it's a good one. I would just do my trick this is my cop out trick, it sounds like, but actually it's a really powerful thing. I was brought up by 2 aromatherapists, one of whom, Michael Cook, should have actually had a different license associated with him because he was just so fascinated by oils he shouldn't be touching. And he loved wintergreen, and he also loved birch, which I know is one that you really love. And again, that's one that we would say be a bit careful because of the methyl salicylate. And he would make these preparations, doing it with dowsing incidentally, rather than like prescriptive, although he knew the prescriptive like nobody's business, but he always did it through dowsing. So he would have a formula or a prescription that maybe would have 20, 30, 40 oils in them. And when he doused the number of oils, like drops to use, you might have like rose, geranium, lemon, 5 drops. But wintergreen would only ever be 1 drop. And it's
Mm.
like it wants to be this kind of backup note that hums in the background. And so what I quite often do is I do my 1/15th of a drop. So we call it a homeopathic dose, which actually is very good for accessing the spiritual aspects of an essential oil, because the more dilute that you get, it's almost like you pull down the physical stuff so you can't access it, and you just have like this, well, the prayer flags in the breeze is a great analogy. It's almost like that's what you're getting. But in this case, you would also really mediate your problems with contraindications. So 1/15th of a drop in another blend for something like a muscle rub, really clever, I think. And so if it's not clear how you do a 1/15th of a drop, count out 14 drops of carrier oil, just little drops, then add 1 drop of wintergreen, then use 1 drop of that blend. That is 1/15th. And I do actually have, this actually is one of those. It's a blended, it's very sticky, it's so old, but it's actually blended. So it's, I've done, I can't remember what the maths is to do 5 ml, but I've done like maybe 3 ml of carrier oil, then calculated how many drops go into 3 ml, and then I use 1 drop of that. And I can still, I mean, it's really, really strong smelling. You would still get that note coming through in any blend, but it really mediates your safety. And I think the deeper that you go into aromatherapy, I love the phrase, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. Having these like structures in place of going, I really could make a mess of that, is really helpful to me to kind of, like I said before, I have new bottles of oil, of citruses coming regularly, so that I don't get myself into trouble with skin sensitivity. But also these ones where the safety can be a bit dodgy, I have 2 bottles. I have the one that's full of all the oil, and then also my mediated one that I can go, well, I don't have to worry about sitting here and counting out a 1/15th of drop. I've got that ready.
So let's have a little bit of a look at its more kind of holistic aspects. What I love about this oil is, it's very classic in what we use it for physically, that we've already discussed, and that kind of translates into the holistic as well. So what I've found in my years of combining aromatherapy and tarot reading is what I love to do is when different cards come up, sometimes you get people that will not be so forthcoming with the information. So you ask a question, go, the cards are suggesting this. And sometimes they're a bit like, I don't know. But what I've found over time is when people have a disliking of an essential oil, as long as they don't have a prior history like their grandmother used wintergreen and she also used to beat them or something like that kind of thing. But do you know what I mean? As long as there's no negative emotional experience, if they don't like the smell of that, that always shows me something on an emotional level that's not quite right. The group of the population who do not like wintergreen, time and time again, are control freaks. They hate it. It's really, really interesting because what wintergreen allows you to do is just as it allows the body to surrender or to release all the pain or the tightness from the body, it also emotionally allows you to do that as well. So for individuals who feel like they need to actually kind of control things and need to know what's happening and like to be the one in control, wintergreen's a really great oil for them to work with. Now, if they've got parts of the body that they want to massage it into, that could help, but they're probably not going to like the smell of it. So what they can do is massaging it onto the soles of their feet at night, just a drop of it, and you will find over time on a metaphysical, magical level, that's actually helping you to build that relationship with something you have an adversity to. Now, this can apply to if you just like to be in control of your life. You can be, most of the time when I go, people go, I don't like the smell of wintergreen, and I jokingly say, "You're a bit of a control freak." They're like, "Yeah, I am." They admit it. So most of the time, people know. But it's also really good for people that are maybe, I think of like meddling mother-in-laws or bossy people who always have to tell everyone the right way to do things. Wintergreen, like you said, you're feeling rather chilled, and it does on so many levels just help us to chill out a little bit more, realize that we can control some things, focus on them. There are some things that we can't control or shouldn't be trying to control because it's someone else's business, and it just really allows us to surrender and let that go and rebalance that harmony. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense, and I can actually articulate that scientifically for you. That's very clever, Adam. Um, so if you think about what I said, that it's really good for massage, for example, that's one of the things that a lot of people will lie on the couch and just still not be able to relax. And so that is one of the reasons that we would use it. And remember how I said that it goes through the GABA A receptor? Well, those are all the way through the system. So I can imagine that they can feel themselves from the moment they smell it. Because remember, we're looking about 5 seconds from the oil to get to the brain to go. They feel that going and go, nope, nope. It's almost like that feeling of falling in a dream, like that's a shock to the system. I'm so controlled, and I'm so holding things in my body of structure and rigor that feels horrible, like coming across your body, because your brain knows these things faster than you can actually say the words, doesn't it? That's
Mm.
really clever. Yeah.
One thing that just popped into my head because of this ability for us to help us to kind of just release and relax. Do you think you could somehow use it in blends for frigidity and sexual coldness or intimacy?
On
Again,
paper,
in the background,
on paper,
I wouldn't make it the main ingredient, and I don't think you're going to win anyone over with the smell of a men's locker room, which Wintergreen kind of.
no, and more than that, it's like an old man's liniment. I think that, like, that's where the difference between aromatherapy and essential oils is huge. Because if you read that on paper, you would go, that would be great. But actually, no, it has no sexual component. But also, your brain will immediately smell that and go, that smells like my granddad. Why would you want to have sex then? Right?
True, true. I'm wondering if you could hide it behind some nicer aromas like geranium, rose, palmarosa, or ylang ylang. I don't know. We'd have to have a try and
Nah,
play around with it.
we've covered lots better oils like tuberose, like jasmine, like
Quality.
osmanthus,
Yeah.
and that's what they're for, right?
Yeah.
Uh, you don't need to try and put it into a pigeonhole. It's already got a really, if you were like, it's like saying the CEO of Lloyd's Bank, do you think he could do like a checkout at Aldi? Well, yeah, he can, but why is he gonna?
Yeah. Yeah. But we're not going to turn Thomas Anderson into an amazing soccer player or football player, are we?
No, because
No.
he doesn't need to. He's got a perfectly good job already.
True, true. Yeah. So one of the other great things about wintergreen, because of the surrender, so it can be really good for control issues. Maybe if we're looking astrologically and kind of profiling the different zodiac signs for Virgos, it could be a really good one. Who Virgos, in their caring nature and trying to get the world perfect and in balance, they can be a little bit controlling and meddling. But also, it can actually be used as an abundance oil as well. Now, again, there are better oils for general abundant citruses and so on that you might reach for. Bergamot's an amazing one. But again, sometimes when we decide we want to manifest something in our lives, we're like, right, I want that lover, I want that job, I want that car, I want that house. What we do is it's great to be clear with the universe, but sometimes we can almost get the tunnel vision on, where we get that specific that there may actually be better options out there. Some people, when they're doing their magical work or their affirmation work, they always say, I want this or something better. So I'd really like a house like that or something better. And they're open to that. And wintergreen could be a good one there for, again, if you're trying to control, like you sit under the full moon and you say, full moon, bring me a new lover. And then the next day you're at work, bugging the guy that you've got a crush on, going, I've done my full moon work. Come on, why isn't it working on him? Because there may be someone better. So it can actually open our point of view and surrender and trust the universe that maybe everything, as we know, in retrospect, we often see that everything is unfolding exactly how it should be. I was talking to a friend recently about trying to get a rental and she's missed out on a rental. And I said, every time I've missed out on a rental home throughout my life, the one I've ended up in has been so much better than the one I was really upset about getting, kind of thing. And probably, we could apply that to our love life and other aspects of our life as well. So if you do need to surrender, I'd really love to hammer that word home, surrender for wintergreen. It can help you on that level as well.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, obviously, I was doing my work thinking about this episode, and I was thinking, I don't really know what the astrological like rulership would be. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's Neptunian, that open sort of, but it's not, it doesn't misdirect. It's not confusing. So no, the only thing that I could come up with is Jupiter for that expansion, like that higher knowledge and almost like that elevation above, being able to look down from a bird's eye view rather than trying to look up in tunnel vision. So you've articulated that better, but that is exactly what I came up with too.
Yeah, I think that's really, yeah, that it is definitely, it's an opening oil. It for the body, it
Mhm.
opens, opens us up from muscle constriction, and it also opens us up from mental constriction, spiritual constriction, and also emotional constriction as well. The final thing, especially, you know, I should have been well prepared. So I was talking about these two different types. So the Chinese type I have is um, Gaultheria, God, procumbens.
Procumbens, yeah, yeah.
Yep. Whereas the Nepalese one, the pink one, is Gaultheria fragrantissima. Fragrantissima.
So scented, so potentially is more scented, isn't it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
most people, if you were buying your oil from somewhere other than doTERRA, you're going to find Gaultheria procumbens. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know whether you said this at the beginning or not, but I was really shocked to find out what it was when I started to learn about it, because it smells like a mint to me. I mean, I keep saying that, but it doesn't smell like mint. But it kind of, in the same way that patchouli doesn't smell like a mint, but it is a mint. I was kind of expecting that. But
Mm.
it's like an evergreen shrub with really glossy leaves, isn't it? And red berries, almost like
Mistletoe?
a Christmas decoration. Is it? No?
Well, it kind of reminds me of like mistletoe or holly or something.
Right, yeah. So like a winter, yeah. And I really had not guessed that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. So yeah, from emotional, really great, especially the Nepalese one with that pink essence. I'd normally use wintergreen probably with that control aspect. I do love it for the solar plexus chakra, but the pink one, I think you can move up to the heart as well. Really good for any resentment or any hurt of the heart, heartbreak, or anything where again, the heart is holding on and going, no, I'm not willing to move on from that injustice that happened to me in my romantic or emotional or love life. I think it would be great for that as well.
Yeah, I think I think if you would like to try and encapsulate it in the tiniest like keyword, release and flow works very good on the emotional level, on the physical level. I think that's a good encapsulation.
I would say release, I would say flow, and I would definitely say surrender as well. So that kind of more opening up and just allowing a little bit more. It's really great as well. So
Mm, mm.
yeah, it's
So actually, let me ask then, because I get asked this a lot. If somebody wanted to buy that pink one from you, how can they buy it if they're not in Australia?
Yeah, that's the great thing. doTERRA, obviously being an international company, they have warehouses all around the world. Now, don't just jump straight on their website because then you'll pay the full price. The great thing is doTERRA uses advocates like myself. So you'll find my details obviously below in the links. Click on that, reach out to me, and you can be anywhere in the world. You can be Australia, the UK, America, Middle East, Asia. We can get it to you anywhere in the world type of thing. So yeah, it's an amazing essential oil to work with, and it's helped a lot of people with their aches and pains and their heartache as well. Mm.
Excellent. Really interesting.
Well, that's 99 oil done and dusted. We must admit we were going through our list and checking off, and we were kind of shocked we hadn't done wintergreen. It's slipped under the radar somehow, but we definitely got into our top 100 oils. Don't forget, we have lots more in store. We've got a special episode coming up for number 100, and then we've got some exciting things happening after that as well. The key thing is, so you don't miss a single little snippet of goodness, you want to make sure that you like each video, you subscribe to us, so you hit the little bell, and the algorithms of the robots and the mice and all those different things and the angels will ensure that you don't miss out on finding out one iota of information about the amazing gifts from Mother Earth and her essential oils. Before we disappear, anything we need to remind them of, Liz?
I guess I didn't say whether you should use it in pregnancy, so it would be all right after 16 weeks, but I would say don't use it in pregnancy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we hope you enjoyed that. Let us know in the comment section below. Until next week, we'll see you soon. Take care and blessed be.
Bye bye.